Hello and welcome to Dangerous Ideas. Thanks for being here. We're going to review the amazing first 100 days of this great president. That's sorry, I can't actually get the sentence out without laughing. This piece of absolute dog shit. I'm not sure why my face looks shinier today. Seems to have more of a glisten going on today. Not sure what that's about. So I think I changed the lighting in here a little bit. Anyway, please click subscribe, click thumbs up. I'm gonna go through as much of the first 100 days as I can. And we'll see how much we can get through of the chaos that has been unleashed. And if you guys know anything about my show and what I do and what I cover, this is not to say that the Democrats have been wonderful and that life under Joe Biden was perfect. It was just sunshine and lollipops. Do you remember that? And now there's no lolly. Trump took away all the lollies. So I'm going to be going through. Oh yeah, I got to change that background. But I'm going to be going through Biden's. Sorry, Biden. I just mentioned Biden a second ago. Guardian's review of the first 100 days, and I'll also mention some of the things that the Guardian essentially doesn't cover at all. There's actually very surprisingly little mention of Gaza and Israel. There's a little bit, but rather little. Guardian spends most of these first 100 days coverage, and this is also a good thing to remember about media and media literacy is how much of this is a bias, is a decision. Yes, they're covering the first 100 days. Yes, most of what they say is true. But what are they choosing to cover? They spend a surprising amount of time on the people that Trump has deported, and I'm not saying that shouldn't be covered, but there's like 2 posts out of 100 days, or maybe 3 out of 100 posts that have anything to do with the genocide that's being committed by the U.S. and Israel every single day of our lives. And it's over 300,000 have been murdered or during that time, if you count famine and, disease. So anyway, that's one of the many ways I will criticize this first 100 days reviews as I get going. But let's dig into it. Day one, starting back in day one. Do you remember those fresh-faced days back in day one? Let's see. It all got rolling with Elon Musk giving a Sig Heil on stage at the inauguration. And also what's been amazing was the number of just like boot/butt licking sycophants out there who want to defend Musk and Trump. And it wasn't a Sig Heil. By the way, with Steve Bannon, when he got on stage at CPAC, more Sig Heils. In case you were confused, in case you thought that Elon Musk was just sending his heart out to the people. Steve Bannon clarified for you at the CPAC. Here's some other things that happened on day one. Pardoning more than 1,500 people convicted on the January 6th Capitol riot charges. I think a lot of what was charged and prosecuted on for January 6th there was a lot of bullshit in there, but that doesn't mean it was all bullshit. I don't know that you can pardon them all. I think there were certainly plenty of people there. And yes, there was a lot of infiltration. If you haven't learned about that, it's been covered by a lot of people. A lot of infiltration on that day, but that doesn't mean that there weren't people there that genuinely were trying to assassinate lawmakers. So it's not to say there's not any reason to convict anyone on January 6th. Withdrawing from the U.S. Paris Climate Accords on day one, which is very upsetting if you care about climate crisis. But if you care about climate crisis, then you would know that Paris Climate Accords do nothing. They do practically nothing. There's like 2 countries out of the 100 that signed them, or whatever the number was, that signed the Paris Climate Accords that are actually sticking to them. Trump pulled out of them for the 4 years he was last in office. Biden dives back into them. The Paris Climate Accords on day one says, no, we're re-signing these things. Does nothing. He goes on to do more drilling than Trump did in his 4 years. So how much of those Paris Climate Accords really doing? Withdrawing from the World Health Organization, renaming the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. My favorite things that Trump does are the stuff where he's just like trolling everybody and he's just like he's like a cartoon villain. That's the fun stuff. Renaming it the Gulf of America. And I'll tell you what's more fascinating than a goon like Trump renaming it the Gulf of America is the corporate leaders who are supposedly this bastion of the liberal world, the pinnacle of the liberal world, bending over immediately, fawning at Trump and saying, yes, sir, it's the Gulf of America now. Google immediately changed their maps because they all know he has power, and they're just Google's, and the rest of them are just going to give in to power. Now, I mean, if you understand inverted totalitarianism, in many ways, Google and Facebook, et cetera, have more power than Trump in certain regards, not in terms of pushing the nuclear button, but and so that's why you have this kind of chess game being played by the lot of them. Attempting to end birthright citizenship, preparing to investigate prosecutors who charged him, directing the Justice Department to not enforce the TikTok ban for 75 days. Doesn't it seem odd that in that first day, when he's doing such important matters, why would TikTok be so important? Why is it so important that our Congress, our government had to make sure and ban TikTok? Well, there's really two reasons. One is because China, right? Hashtag China. But the deeper reason is because it was getting the truth out to people, especially young people. It was getting the truth to people. And that was very upsetting. And it also means, you notice why they're going after TikTok so much and they're not, at least as much, going after Facebook and YouTube and all the others, because TikTok was not already captured. Facebook and YouTube and everything, they've already been captured. That's why roughly 8.5 people are watching this live stream right now. Whereas if you spit right-wing talking point garbage, it would be 9 billion people watching this stream right now. So you see the difference. TikTok was largely not captured. Now, TikTok then started doing whatever the U.S. rulers wanted it to. So I got banned on TikTok within 2 months of beginning to use it. So they're not a free and fair platform any longer by any means. Moving on, day 2. Pete Hegseth, Trump's nominee for defense secretary, faced new allegations that he denied from his ex-sister-in-law that his second wife once hid from him in a closet and had a safe word to call for help if she needed to get away from him. I think that, first of all, that sounds like exactly the type of person we want to run the Pentagon. Because what is the Pentagon but an abusive organization? So if you abuse people, if you kind of have no moral core, if you're willing to harm those who can't stand up against you, then that's perfect for the Pentagon. So I don't understand what the problem was, honestly. This sounds great to me. Also, I think maybe America needs a safe word for Donald Trump to, call the authorities. Or maybe the world needs a safe word from our Pentagon, which is now run by Pete Hegseth. 22 states sued. And again, about the bias, about what they're choosing to tell you. Well, they tell you that Pete Hegseth, blah, 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 abuse. They're not mentioning that Pete Hegseth has tattoos, has like the Christian Crusade tattoo, which is connected very closely with white supremacy on his body. So there's a lot they're not telling you. Now, granted, I don't expect them to tell you everything that's wrong with Trump and Trump administration because you'd be here for 900 years. And let's see if I get more in this hour. I'm going to try and get through more than 10 days, which would suck if I only got through 10 days because I plan to get through most of the 100. Anyway, 22 states sued the Trump administration in this is day 2 still on day 2. In 2 federal district courts to block Trump's executive order seeking to stop children born to unauthorized immigrants on U.S. soil from automatically becoming citizens. Of course, that's been a long time law in the United States. If you're born here, you're American. I mean, kind of makes sense because what country would you be from? If you're born in America, you're kind of from America. But on top of that, nation states are bullshit and citizenship is bullshit. And it's all just designed to keep us afraid and scared and looking to daddy to help us. Looking to Daddy Trump to take care of us, do a little research on what borders are and why they mean anything to us in our sad little mind virus. Day 3, the Trump administration threatened tens of thousands of federal workers with adverse consequences. They failed to report on colleagues who defied directives. So they're basically trying to get everyone to snitch. Defy directives to, what do you think the end of the sentence is going to be? It says it's going to be if they don't rat on their colleagues for what? Being racist, for stealing drugs, for stealing stuff out of the office, for working as secret spies for China. What's it going to be? No, for furthering diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. That's the thing. He's like, you need to rat on your neighbor if it turns out they did something positive for a non-white person. And by the way, I've done segments on it. You can go back and check them out if you want. DEI and woke can be used to cover up all kinds of crimes. The Biden administration, pretended to be woke. They put a black woman out as press secretary, and therefore you can bomb children, and it's okay because liberal America looks and goes, look, there's a black woman telling me it's okay to bomb children in Gaza. Great. So it can be used to cover up all kinds of egregious shit. But also, when DEI was working properly, it was a tiny Band-Aid on a systemic racism that is just a river of mud throughout this society. A tiny, tiny Band-Aid. It's essentially similar to affirmative action. It's like, we live in systemic racism. We live in a country that not only had slavery until, 100 blah, blah years ago, but since then, continued to find ways to make it impossible for black people to actually rise up in society even slightly. Many of them would get locked up for no reason, so we could continue to have slavery, Jim Crow laws, etc. Just absolutely treat them like garbage for almost the entirety of our history. And then in the past few decades, there's been these little Band-Aid things, affirmative action and DEI, etc., to try and have the slightest appearance of giving a shit about how horribly these people have been treated and how this has been a white supremacist country and really white male supremacist country and white male run dominated society. And those Band-Aids are horrifying to white supremacists. Those Band-Aids are the true problem with our society. And it's similar with the debates about affirmative action. They'd love to say, oh, this person was a DEI hire. Well, first of all, probably not true, but let's say it were true. Let's say that person was hired because of a DEI program. Let's say, a black person. Well, that's after 100, well, okay, way more than 150 years, I was going to say, but that's after hundreds of years of non-white people, basically and anyone who wasn't a white male, getting those jobs. And to this day, it's still true that white men and white people in general get the jobs far more easily. And that's, jobs is just an example, but get jobs, get legs up far more easily than people of color. Endless study after study after study. You are far less likely to even get the first job interview if you just have a black sounding name. That's it. That's all. Far less likely. So to pretend like, oh, DEI is this completely unfair thing. Yeah, our society has been egregiously unfair in the other direction for its entire existence. Anyway, day 4, I didn't highlight anything for the moment, but day 5, Trump proposed shutting down the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA. FEMA has, what's funny is FEMA is such a problematic agency in so many ways. It's got a lot of racist policies as well. White homes, it generally buys up white homes in white areas far more often and for far more money when they're, like flood areas and things like that. So FEMA helps white people more in that way. So it's got all these issues. But the reason Trump wants to get rid of it is not because of those issues. The reason he wants to get rid of it is because occasionally it helps some people. And that's why he's like, we got to shut this thing down. The Trump administration summarily, and also it's general austerity. You cut everything that might help the poorer Americans, and you give giant tax cuts to the rich, right? That's the overall idea of it. The Trump administration summarily fired 15 inspectors general in a late night purge that could clear the way for Trump to install loyalists in the crucial roles on identifying fraud and working on whistleblower allegations in the government. And as I mentioned at the time that he did that, that is horrifying. It is a power grab to fire 15 inspectors general. However, they weren't doing a lot anyway. Like, they were doing some, but really, were they stopping corruption in the U.S. government? Do you think that when those 15 were working, basically the day before that Trump did that, was there no corruption in the U.S. government? Was there no corruption in the Biden administration? Did Biden not go in and get his son a job on a Ukrainian oil company and then fire the prosecutor, or force them to fire the prosecutor that was looking into it? It's like, you know, I feel like they could have been doing more. Trump told reporters, this is day 6 now. We're all the way up to day 6. Trump told reporters aboard Air Force One that he wanted Jordan and Egypt to house Palestinians from Gaza. So by day 5 and 6, he was already publicly endorsing ethnic cleansing. Good to see. Trump signed an executive order on day 8 prohibiting people who are transgender from serving in the military. And obviously, this is just his hatred of transgender people. That's why he wants to do this. But I hate when the battle over anything comes down to military. It's just whether they're allowed in the military. How about how they're treated throughout all of society? Instead, it's just no, because liberals get caught in this idiotic trap where they end up going out to protest for someone's right to join our bloodthirsty sociopathic military. And that's where they'll draw the line. There's a lot of liberals where it's like, no, you can beat up trans people every night of the week, but if you don't let them join the military, if you don't let them shoot and kill innocent people for our military, that is unacceptable. Okay, that is not my liberal America. They deserve to kill other innocent people too. Every day they do. They can kill all the innocent people that a non-trans person can. Okay, they're just as good at it. Trump fired day 7 now. No, sorry, day 9. Trump fired 2 Democratic officials at the National Labor Relations Board, potentially stalling hundreds of labor practice cases. Basically, he fired these 2 people at the NLRB in order to make it so that someone mentioned the ABC News interview. I thought about playing the clip. It's a hilarious clip. Everyone should watch it after you're done watching this. I thought about playing on it here, but every time you play an ABC News clip, they'll like shut down your video or take all the ad money or whatever they do. So I'm not going to play it, but it is pretty funny where the ABC anchor says deported that innocent guy to El Salvador, and Trump says he had MS-13 tattooed on his knuckles, and the guy says that photo was photoshopped. Like, it's been proven he does not have MS-13 symbology tattooed on his body. And Trump said, no, it was, I saw the images, which is really kind of a sad statement for a president. It's like, you don't have a guy who tells you if something's been photoshopped. Anyway, he fired these people from the NLRB in order to make it so they don't have quorum. Without quorum, they can't do anything. If they can't do anything, well, what is most of what NLRB does? It is the one that would allow union elections. It goes after, or ostensibly, goes after employers or corporations that are harming their employees, etc. Now, it's been captured already. So yet again, this is one of these things that Trump did that is bad. I mean, I guess we should have an NLRB, but the whole idea of the NLRB, fuck you, you have to approve my union vote. No. We're a bunch of workers. We got together and said, we are a union. Done. That's it. I don't care whether you approve my shit or not. If you don't approve my shit, we're walking. How about that? You don't like... You don't have to approve my vote. Now, of course, there are times like Amazon was able to rig one of their big elections by, doing everything they could that was technically against the rules, right? They did forced meetings and screwed up the vote, did everything they could to basically, and they made workers think there'd be reprisals if you voted a certain way, et cetera, et cetera. So Amazon does all these things that are against the rules. The NLRB is the one that eventually, after the vote, after the unionizers, the organizers lose the vote, the NLRB is the one that's supposed to step in and say, Amazon didn't allow a fair vote. But in general, this is a captured system. So I think the NLRBs, should be functioning, I guess. But then we should talk about how about it just be that the workers vote and you can go screw yourself. Trump ordered the expansion of the Migrant Operations Center at Guantanamo Bay to accommodate what the administration termed high-priority criminal aliens. He wanted to send them to Guantanamo Bay, which is about as offensive as you can get because Guantanamo Bay should not be American property to begin with. The fact that we have stolen, continue to steal a small area of Cuba in order to have a U.S. military torture program there is revolting. Next day, Trump signed an executive order dubbed additional measures to combat anti-Semitism. So here he is bowing down to Israel in every way. This is not to combat anti-Semitism. It is to go after anyone who criticizes Israel. You guys hopefully understand that by now. Trump linked Wednesday's night's fatal plane and helicopter crash. You remember that? The big plane crash in D.C., just outside of Washington, D.C. He said it was caused by DEI initiatives at the Federal Aviation, at the FAA. Of course, that's bullshit. But and by the way, there's been like dozens of near misses just in the past few weeks before this crash, because that area of Reagan Airport is so insane that it's got all these helicopters flying low right outside Reagan. Is horrifying. Trump announced military strikes. Day 13, Trump announced military strikes against ISIS targets in Somalia via Truth Social, claiming the operation eliminated a senior attack planner. So we're bombing Somalia by day 13, which this is the anti-war president, right? People claim. Trump imposed sweeping tariffs on Mexico, Canada, and China in a series of executive orders that threatened to set global trade on fire. A little foreshadowing to what's coming up in his presidency, right? The administration terminated temporary protected status for more than 300,000 Venezuelans, giving recipients just 60 days to leave the country after the official notice is published. Now, here's what's hilarious and insane about that. Those Venezuelans, many of them, first of all, they fled to the U.S. because Venezuela is suffering economically. Why is it suffering economically? Because of the U.S. We did this to them. We have made it so that they can they have almost no ability to sell their oil, which, whether I like it or not, oil still is what the world runs on. They would be rich as fuck if they could sell their oil. But of course, they nationalized their oil. We, the corporatist horror show, are very upset about that. We also hate their socialism. And of course, if you understand the petrodollar, we can't have a country selling all that oil outside of the dollar. So, so these 300,000, some of them are fleeing because of that. Some of them are like far right wing oppositions, more, anti-socialist, anti-Maduro, anti-Chavez Venezuelans who fled to the United States because they were like, hey, I'm a far right wing, anti-indigenous, like racist, and I'm going to flee to America where they like that kind of thing and they want to turn Venezuela upside down. And now he's kicking them out. He's kicking out his supporters, his far right wing Venezuela supporters. The clash over the future of USAID intensified. This is day 15. As the White House confirmed plans to merge the Foreign Aid Agency with State Department. Now, this is another one of these hilarious things where Trump's getting rid of USAID because in his mind, it helps other people that need help. And so to him, that's upsetting. Why would the U.S. send money to go help people that need help? That's revolting. It's putrid, disgusting. Now, in fact, what USAID does is try and create coups around the world. Now, it often will do that via some form of aid. It will, they'll send aid to certain people, but they do that to get a foothold in the country. They'll then be very prevalent with propagandists. They funded after Trump cut off the funds, it came out that they were funding 6,000 propagandists around the world. So many of these things, like Trump basically accidentally shut down a large arm of U.S. propaganda and coup manufacturing. However, many of those things, as they figure it out, it may take a while. As they figure it out, many of those things will then be in the State Department. So he basically just took away the brand laundering of our coups. It used to be called USAID. Now it'll be called State Department. Day 16, Trump had a press conference with Netanyahu, which means he had a war criminal with arrest warrant from the UN. A court connected to the UN. ICC arrest warrant out for him. And he brought him into the White House and had a press conference where he said the U.S. will take over Gaza. This was that special day where he publicly announced that we want ethnic cleansing. Of course, this is where you get the difference between what liberal America believes and what we should really be upset about. Liberal America believes this shows, if they don't, quote unquote, support America, but Jesus Christ, support Israel. So I guess this would be the left-leaning liberals who understand you can't support genocide, but they would say, oh my God, Trump wants ethnic cleansing. And you saw this on a lot of mainstream media. Oh my God, Trump wants ethnic cleansing. It's like Joe Biden has, the genocide went on for a year under Joe Biden. More than a year. Joe Biden was the king of genocide and ethnic cleansing. We sent missiles to them every 36 hours under Joe Biden, and we continue to under Trump. So the idea that we should just be upset at Trump for Gaza is ridiculous. Trump imposed tariffs on China, sparking intense retaliation from Beijing. That was day 17. And I'm certainly not the only one, but I'm one of a few that has given you or tried to give you the actual reason that Trump did this insane tariff war that is now backfiring. And you kind of go, well, what is it what's he really getting at? Well, he's really getting at de-dollarization in the world. The U.S., the dollar is collapsing, the petrodollar is collapsing. So Trump is trying to recreate the global economic system to deal with the fact that the U.S. Can't sustain without being able to print endless dollars. And that is the root of this tariff war. But it has had short-term implications that have caused him to back down on almost all of it. Donald Trump moved to revoke, I love this, Joe Biden's security clearance and end the former president's daily intelligence briefings as retaliation for Biden doing the same thing to him in 2021. Well, okay, shouldn't every president just not be part of it when they leave? Like, when Obama left office, why does he need classified briefings? You're basically admitting that he's still part of the oligarchy that's still running things, but they're not supposed to be. That's not how our so-called democracy is supposed to work. If the dude leaves, he leaves. He's out. He doesn't need classified briefings. But perhaps a more important point, and again, liberal media up in arms. How dare he do this to Biden? Do you really want Joe Biden reviewing anything other than an IHOP menu these days? Do you really? What advice, what important advice is going to come from Joe Biden these days? Even, it was horrifying enough when he was president. Now he's older and not president, and you're going to what? Go to him for how to run? Hey, should we bomb Iran, you think? I'll have the bacon. Okay, good talk, Joe. Good talk. Day 20. Oh, no, we're already... So at this rate, we will get through 40 days of his 100 days in the hour. Ross Vought, Trump's new director of the Office of Management and Budget, announced he had cut off the budget of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which, again, this is Trump ripping off all these Band-Aids that were put on to slightly act like the ruling elite give a tip of a turd about any of us, about poor people, about those being scammed by banks, about those being abused and exploited every day of the week. These are little band-aids that the incredibly rich ruling elite have put on our society to make it look like they're doing anything. The Consumer Protection Bureau largely did shit all. And so, yes, it should, I'm not saying take off the Band-Aid, but hell, maybe it shows the reality. And of course, again, your liberal response is, oh my God, he doesn't care about consumer protection. Yeah, and neither did any of them. I got news for you. The Consumer Protection Bureau had been completely defanged. It couldn't do shit. And they're like, oh, we got several $1 billion for taxpayers. It's been around for how many years? And it got a few $1 billion in like overdraft fees from banks. Yeah, really upending this exploitative system. Day 21, Donald Trump defended Elon Musk, head of DOGE, amid criticism of the billionaire's slash and burn tactics at USAID. I love how they all center it around USAID. Like, that's the one they're really upset about. By the way, I had to skim through some of this 100 days, and it might be in here somewhere, but I didn't see anything as I was looking through it where they mentioned that Elon Musk, Doge, and Trump are trying to they're backdoor gutting Social Security, which is way more important than USAID. Social Security, it helps like the least among us, the people who are elderly. And how many elderly do you want to see living under a bridge across America? And, I've done whole segments on how they're backdoor gutting Social Security. They're claiming all these dead people are on the rolls. But in fact, the dead people, yeah, they're on the rolls and they're listed as dead, meaning they're not getting benefits anymore. So being like, there's dead people on the rolls, it doesn't matter unless literally someone comes up and collects that check. And out of all the cases that they put forward, they've so far found like 13 out of millions and millions of people. They found 13 people that maybe are collecting a dead person's check. But the way they're backdoor gutting it is they're basically getting rid, they're destaffing it. They're getting rid of all the offices except for, so there's like one office for every 1,000 miles. Like that's their goal eventually. And they're also making it that you have to appear in person to do a lot of things on your Social Security account, which, of course, if you've taken away all the offices and now you've got a poor person who probably doesn't even own a car, how are they going to get to that one Social Security office? This is by design. Trump also predicted Musk would find billions of dollars of abuse and fraud in the federal government. And then he also said, next, we're going to go to the military. Let's check the military. We're going to find billions, hundreds of millions of dollars of fraud and abuse. Cut to fast forward. That's right. I make films. Fast forward to a few weeks later, he said he wants to see $1 trillion military budget. Trump also declared Sunday to be the Gulf of America Day. Yay. The Justice Department ordered federal prosecutors to drop corruption charges against New York Mayor Eric Adams. So basically, the only Democrat that Trump likes is the corrupt one. Well, okay, that actually made it sound like all the Democrats aren't corrupt. What I mean is the one being prosecuted for corruption. The only Democrat that Trump's like, I'd like to cut of that guy's jib, is the former police officer, a captain or something, who is being prosecuted for corruption, prosecuted for bribery from Turkey. And Trump's Justice Department dropped the charges and literally said in the announcement that it was so that Eric Adams could focus on cracking down on illegal immigration. Like literally in the statement by the Justice Department, they said it's a quid pro quo, which is supposed to be corruption. Quid pro quos are supposed to be either illegal or at least frowned upon. And here they are announcing it. We're not going to prosecute Eric Adams for his bribery and corruption because he's going to give us some illegal aliens. That's a big difference between Trump and other presidents. Is the amount of how full frontal he'll be in a lot of this horror show. The next day, 23, joined by his 4-year-old son X in the Oval Office. Elon Musk, that kid's totally going to end up doing porn. It's sad and it's disgusting. But if your name is X, I'm sorry, you're going to end up doing porn. And by the way, people were calling this kid Elon Musk's little human shield because you notice he started carting him around after Luigi Mangione did his thing or was accused of doing his thing. Joined by his 4-year-old ex, Elon Musk claimed that the DOGE goal was to restore democracy, contending the federal bureaucracy had amassed too much power. The world's richest man denied conflicts of interest. Of course, if you actually read what he's doing, it's all conflicts of interest. He's like gone after and shut down all the departments that have lawsuits or are looking into investigations into Trump's companies. Into Musk's companies. That was like goal number one. Of course, apparently the boomerang effect that he was not counting on is that all the people across the country now don't want to buy Teslas because he's a Nazi horror show, and it has hurt Tesla. And a lot of Elon Musk's wealth is wrapped up in Tesla stock. The world's richest man denied conflicts of interest and said, "You can see whether I'm doing something that's benefiting one of my companies or not. I'll be scrutinized nonstop." And you have been. And you've been found to be corrupt. And so that's one of the best things about Elon Musk. Many of the interviews he's done, he talks about, he's like, look, it's all transparent. I'll be scrutinized. People can see what I'm doing. And we have. And we've seen you're corrupt. Yeah, we did the thing. We did the thing. We found out you're corrupt. That's what you're doing. Like literally you have gone after the bureaus, the offices that are looking into your companies. That's where you've angled your efforts. Trump stood by his plan for the U.S. to take control of Gaza and redevelop into a tourist destination while relocating 2 million Palestinians. That's the definition of ethnic cleansing. Even if Israel were not murdering them all and hadn't killed 300,000, if you include famine and disease, that would still be ethnic cleansing. Hey, let's get all these people, mainly non-white people, out of Gaza. And even if they did it in a really friendly way, even if they came and they were like, hey, high five, let's go this way, it's still ethnic cleansing. You understand that? You know, like how the words work? The Senate confirmed Democratic Congresswoman, does she still call herself Democratic? Tulsi Gabbard, 52 to 48 vote to serve as Director of National Intelligence. Point number one, the only reason the vote was that close, like she almost lost it, was because Republicans were afraid she was actually secretly left-wing, which I have no qualms about her being secretly left-wing. I do not picture her ever pulling a switcheroo and being left-wing. I think she's found her true fake self. I think this fake persona is the one she's sticking with. But then also, it's like the people who are upset, oh my God, Tulsi Gabbard's going to make a terrible director of national security. What do we want? Do we want a good director of national security? National intelligence? Like, we're talking the CIA, the FBI, like those things. NSA, we want someone who's good at that because their mission statement is horrifying. I'd rather have someone suck at that. I'd rather they put Gary Busey in as Director of National Intelligence. I'd rather they put just a downright moron in as Director of National Intelligence. Trump held separate phone calls. We're on day 24, folks. Separate phone. Maybe I'll make this a 2-part episode. You guys can let me know because we're not going to get through all these. Do you want me to continue the 100-day review on Friday? Trump held separate phone calls with the Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian President Zelensky in an effort to end the war. And how'd that go? How's that been going? The Senate voted, and I don't need to give you guys a whole history of how it's a proxy war. The U.S. created it, and now we've been perpetrating it for years now. But now it seems that someone in the United States no longer wants it to continue. It kind of has a life of its own at this point. The Senate voted 52-48 to confirm Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as the next Health and Human Services Secretary. And, you know, I've tried to be rather clear. The stuff that RFK Jr. says that I agree with, such as criticizing Big Ag, although, as I think you'll see, he'll probably do nothing to rein in Big Ag because they're actually powerful. Instead, he'll go after the things that are kind of less powerful. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we'll rein in Big Ag or rein in torture farming, which is what I call, you know, high occupancy farming or whatever whatever garbage euphemism they have for it. So I've been clear with stuff he says that I support, but he lies so aggressively and so endlessly on so many things that with every word that comes out of his mouth, it's like Donald Trump. It's just he says it a little differently. But like, go watch anything RFK Jr. has ever said about Israel. It is the most aggressive, breathtaking soup of lies you could ever imagine. He called Gaza the most coddled people on earth in the midst of a genocide. So that's the type of human you're dealing with. I don't know what to tell you. Trump unveiled plans for the U.S. to implement reciprocal tariffs on the countries with which it conducts trade. Of course, reciprocal is reciprocal in that context is similar to when they say the war in Ukraine was unprovoked. When the U.S. says unprovoked, it's funny how that word works. They mean provoked. Katie's telling me it was pampered. RFK Jr. said Gaza is the most pampered people. Sorry. Unprovoked means provoked when the U.S. says it. Reciprocal tariffs against other countries means not reciprocal. He's just putting giant tariffs on these countries. Now, we know that a lot of it has collapsed. A lot of it's fallen through for the moment. Who knows where it'll go? But again, this comes down to de-dollarization and the continued degradation of the U.S. empire, which it does seem like Trump is speeding up the end of the U.S. empire. So I guess, you know, that's a piece of it we could all cheer for. The question is whether we end up in full-on autocracy in the process. Trump posted on his social media, "He who saves his country does not violate any law," which is by Napoleon, who became a dictator. The military leader who declared himself emperor and tried to take over most of Europe and Russia, and was forced into exile on a small island, but then got off one of the small islands and tried to do it again, and then they put him on another small island. How is it you don't end up beheaded after all that? Anyway, even if it hadn't been by Napoleon, Trump posted something saying he gets to violate all the laws. Because, of course, every dictator thinks they're saving the country. That's what, in their corrupt mind that is filled with mercury and lead paint chips, they think they're saving the country. So Trump posted something saying, I get to break any law I want. Wonderful. Good. Trump at day 28, Trump asked the Supreme Court to let him fire the head of a federal agency that protects government whistleblowers. So again, if you are a liberal, you see that and you go, oh my God, that's horrific. And it is. It should not be done. We should have departments that look after and protect whistleblowers. However, how successful has this department been, or how much has it done to protect whistleblowers? Chelsea Manning, tortured, imprisoned, and likely would have been imprisoned for the rest of her life, you know, had it not been for a kind of fluke pardon by Obama at the end of his tenure. Julian Assange, even though he's a publisher, he was blowing the whistle on everything the U.S. was doing. Tortured, imprisoned. Many of them in the U.S. wanted him assassinated. John Kiriakou, whistleblower that revealed the CIA torture program, imprisoned for multiple years, would have been imprisoned for life, except that he took a plea deal. And you can just go down the list, Daniel Hale, Jeremy Hammond, just go down the list of every whistleblower. Edward Snowden, of course, would be imprisoned and maybe executed if he were in the United States. So what exactly was this department doing? Under Biden, under Trump the first time, under Obama? Was there a lot of protecting of whistleblowers going on? Oh, by the way, here's a story that I am one of the only ones to cover. And this was back several years ago. I think I covered it under Trump's first term, probably his first year. But in a small footnote in one of the documents that whatever it's called, the Office of Accountability or whatever it's called at the Pentagon, small footnote said there'd been 99,000 some complaints against the Pentagon. Now, this could be actual from in a 10 or 15 year period, I think. I can't remember how many years it was, and some of them come from Pentagon people that work there. Some of them come from contractors with the Pentagon, et cetera, et cetera. But nearly 100,000 people came to the Office of Accountability, the whatever the term is for it, I can't remember, but that is supposed to look into these things. And that office decided to not even look in to 99% of that 100,000. 100,000 come forward, do the proper channels. Whenever there's a whistleblower, they didn't go through the proper channels. 100,000 complaints to the proper channels. 99% of them ignored. Say, not even worth looking into. The 1% they looked into, they decided against the whistleblower or the complainer, the complaint person. They decided against them most of the time. So you basically, this idea that you can go through the proper channels is hilarious on so many levels. Day 31, Trump attempted to rewrite the history of Russia's war against Ukraine, saying Ukraine started it when in reality, Russia invaded the country unprovoked. That's the Guardian for you. I highlighted that one because I wanted to show Guardian's stupid propaganda. That's right. There was no provocation at all. 14 to 15,000 Russians were not murdered in the Donbass region. The U.S. did not create a coup in 2014. The CIA was not in Ukraine arming and training them, according to the New York Times. Even the New York Times has admitted that. The U.S. was not edging towards adding Ukraine to NATO. Ukraine was not making inroads to being added to NATO, a war-making pact. No, none of that happened. That's right, Guardian. That's right, liberal America. Go to sleep. All is well. It was completely unprovoked. Yes. Moving on, day 32. I am clearly going to have to continue this first 100 days in my next hour. I was wondering how many we'd get through. I didn't think it would only be a third of them, but Trump continued the mass firing of federal workers, axing people at the IRS and in disaster recovery, among others. Some fired were then rehired. Yeah, thousands were fired and rehired because Trump doesn't actually, they don't know what they're doing. But some fired and rehired, including public health workers responsible for responding to the spreading bird flu. And when they say firing people at the IRS, keep in mind that under Biden and under the first Trump and under Obama, more and more money was being poured into the IRS divisions that investigate non-rich people. And less money was being given to investigate the actual IRS scammers that dodge every tax to the tune of trillions of dollars. Those people are being investigated less and less. Yet you'll see far less uproar during Biden's term, right? Where was the Guardian covering this during Biden? I think not. Day 32 was CPAC, the Conservative Political Action Conference, where Elon Musk and Donald Trump and Steve Bannon and others did a victory lap. Elon Musk appeared in sunglasses, a black MAGA hat, wielding a chainsaw next to far-right Argentinian president Javier Milei. Javier Milei has, of course, gutted his country, put in terrible austerity. The over 50% of Argentinians are now below the poverty line. It's been a horror show for Argentinians, but the rich in Argentina doing quite well. So there's that. Let's see what else we got. France's President Emmanuel Macron warned Trump against a surrender of Ukraine. That's right. Europe running around trying to make sure that the horror show in Ukraine continues. Thank goodness we have Europe to really stand up for what's right in this world. They're licking Donald Trump's ass so much and Joe Biden's ass that they're still celebrating that they blew up their own pipeline. Like, the Nord Stream was supposed to connect Russia to Europe, to Germany and Europe. The U.S. blows it up with the assistance of others, and Europe's just like, Russia did it. Like, they're just not accusing the U.S. at all. The president floated this day 37. President floated the creation of a gold card visa that would give wealthy foreigners a pathway to citizenship for a $5 million fee. In case you were wondering whether this whole anti-immigrant thing is actually anti-immigrant or whether it's anti a certain kind of immigrant, that second one. It's anti-poor immigrants. It's not anti-rich immigrants. Elon Musk, they're not going after Elon Musk, are they? For being an immigrant. They're not going after Melania for being an immigrant. No. And Trump, in fact, proposes, you give us $5 million, we will make you an immigrant. Doesn't matter where you're from. A Pentagon memo filed in court on Wednesday said transgender service members would be separated from the U.S. military unless they receive an exemption. And I already talked about why is that? Why is it only the military where liberal America will stand up for transgender people? And maybe that's not the only one, but it does seem like that's the one they harp on the most. We want them in the military. We want them to be able to kill with others. The Supreme Court handed the president his first victory, granting the Trump administration's request to pause a lower court's deadline for the government to resume nearly $2 billion in foreign aid payments. And again, as with USAID, foreign aid, most U.S. foreign aid is done for political reasons. It's done to either try in a certain way to try and upend countries that we don't like, or it's done to try and solidify countries where we have created allies there, and they're on the petrodollar. Day 39, Keir Starmer comes over to lick some ass. The British Prime Minister arrived at the White House bearing a letter from King Charles as he quietly appealed to Trump to not abandon Ukraine. Please don't abandon murdering more people in Ukraine. We know it's a meat grinder, and we know Russia will ultimately wear them down no matter how long it goes. But we'd like to see, we think we could get at least 100, 200,000 more men to die in Ukraine before this thing wraps up. So that'd be really exciting for us. Oh, these people are so soulless. Day 40, the explosive Zelensky meeting in the White House. Trump and J.D. Vance assailed and berated Zelensky. And I went through that. I played the interview on here and went through how both sides, because you had a lot of, whether it was independent media or mainstream media, you had a lot of people pulling on one side or the other. Either, yay, look at Trump, he's telling Zelensky to go F himself, or yay, look at or whatever, not yay, but poor Zelensky got attacked by Trump. What a horrible man Trump is. Those were basically the two sides. How about the middle? How about the fact that these are both lunatics that have facilitated and perpetrated wars around the world? Maybe Trump doesn't want the Ukrainian war to keep going, but he's certainly fine creating genocide in Gaza, certainly fine assassinating Soleimani, certainly fine dropping 44,000 bombs his first year in office in his first term. So these are two warmonger maniacs, and Trump just happens to not want this one U.S. war to keep going. Be you know, and Zelensky does want it to keep going because Zelensky is a puppet of a certain kind of oligarchs in Ukraine and a certain kind of oligarchs in the U.S. And now he's in a place where he knows if the war ends, that he'll no longer have power, and once he no longer has power, all these people are going to come after him. They're like, he's got Nazis like waiting over his shoulder, like you better keep this war going. So. Day 49, Trump declined to rule out the possibility the U.S. economy could fall into recession and that inflation could rise as uncertainty continued over the tariffs policy. And, just an update on the tariffs policy. While he's paused a lot of the tariffs, or, he's given exceptions. Oh, we're not going to do it on phones or computers, et cetera, et cetera. Basically all the stuff that China ships us. No, a lot of the stuff though. It has created such uncertainty around the dollar that the dollar has lost a lot of power, and people are not around the world. The rich are no longer wanting to put their money in U.S. Treasury bonds, which is a very scary thing to the U.S. empire. And so it's kind of like this has had, even though a lot of the stock market has quote unquote come back because the stock market's imaginary and it's a Ponzi scheme. It has had this effect where it has decreased the power of the U.S. dollar, even if Trump goes back on a lot of the things he already said, because no one knows what the F is going on. Like, of course they're not. Oh yeah, I want to invest in that. I think the U.S. is a blue chip stock right now. Anyway, I will wrap up on day 50, and then I will bring you the other 50 on Friday. Day 50. The Trump administration invoked an obscure immigration law in an attempt to deport a recent Columbia University grad and a lawful U.S. permanent resident who had helped lead campus protests against Israel, to be clear, against Israel's genocide last year. Mahmoud Khalil, 30, who graduated in December. And a court has now ruled that they ruled that another student they arrested has to be freed. I don't know where Khalil stands as of today, although I did see that I did cover 2 days ago that the Trump administration had to admit there was no warrant for his arrest. So he was arrested basically illegally in more regards than one. But I did want to take a second to mention that the bias of The Guardian, a largely liberal outlet, in this first 100 days, it's not that everything they're saying here didn't happen. It's not that these aren't important things, but you're going to hear no mention of capitalism. You're going to hear no mention of the things that Donald Trump has kept going that were exactly the same as Joe Biden or Obama or Bush or Clinton. All of that stuff is largely ignored. What's only harped on is the stuff that changed between Biden and Trump. Trump is doing everything he can to salvage the collapsing petrodollar system. But of course, that's the same with Biden, Trump, all of them. There's no difference there. And he, of course, is continuing or maybe slightly building on the largest prison state in the world, the largest prison industrial complex, the largest big oil state in the world. In certain ways. Biden allowed more drilling than Trump did, but now Trump's trying to beat that record. So all of these, and climate crisis and the genocide in Gaza, I'd say, are probably the two biggest issues in the world right now. And Gaza's mentioned a couple of times in this 100-day analysis. Climate crisis is essentially never mentioned, except that Trump left the climate accords, which weren't doing anything anyway. So it just goes it speaks to the bias of liberal media. They're not actually going to get to the heart of a lot of things. Now, again, I'm not saying everything they're saying here is not true or important. I'm saying that there's a lot of true important things that they're ignoring because it's no different than Biden. Again, I'm not saying nothing about Trump is different from Biden. There are differences. Some of them we've been going through. Okay, I'm going to wrap up for today, but I will bring you the other 50 days on Friday. And, quick notes, very important note. I saw the YouTube analytics on how many people follow this show on YouTube and how many of you actually click the bell icon. Now, if you don't want to click the bell icon, that's one thing, but I think most people don't realize this, that there's multiple options for the bell icon. And some of you don't click it at all. But in order to get alerted to my videos almost at all, you have to click all notifications. But then there's another step. You have to allow notifications on whatever device, your iPad or your phone or whatever. Now, I'm not saying you have to do that. But if you thought you were doing that, if you thought you were signed up for notifications, then a lot of you think you are and you're not. And so you'd have to click subscribe again, click all notifications, and then allow notifications on your device. So all those things have to happen. But on top of that, I would highly, highly recommend that you do other steps because my YouTube could be banned at any moment. It's already heavily suppressed. So please go sign up for free for my Substack. Because I can alert you about my videos via Substack. So go to substack.com/@realleecamp. And that will get you there. I think it's also realleecamp.substack.com. But anyway, substack.com/@realleecamp will take you there. Subscribe for free. And I'll be able to alert you about my videos that way. And if you want to support this show, please become a member at leecamp.net or patreon.com/leecamp. There is a new Unredacted Tonight tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern. That's 4 p.m. Pacific. New Unredacted Tonight coming out tomorrow. And I hope you will check it out. Okay. You're all the best. Thank you so much for being here. Keep fighting.
Well, brother, I salute you, though, man. You're one of the few that bring together this tremendous artistic talent and still be in such deep solidarity with oppressed people.
It's an honor to be here because I'll tell you, Lee, you have one of the funniest shows on television, bar none.
It's an enormous pleasure to be here. While I was waiting, I was leafing through your wonderful book.
The same to you. I love your show. Be happy to come back anytime.
Lee, this is one of the great honors of my long career, just to be in the same earth with you.
I'm sure.
We're just so blinded. We have so many blinders on because our society doesn't want us to know things. And so it takes shows like your show, and
it is clearly designed to eradicate.
Hey, good to see you.
Hey, Jill, how are you? Julian, thanks for joining me. Honor to have you, brother.
Consumerism is a theory that people should behave this way to help each other. It's not.
Mr. George Galloway, thank you so much for joining me in these dark times.
Always a pleasure, my friend.
Thank you so much, Lee, for having me on. Keep fighting. Ha ha.